Pleased to welcome on Rob Dauster from the Field of 68 to talk about this weekend's huge couple of matchups for the Xavier Musketeers and the Cincinnati Bearcats. Xavier has Creighton at the Cintas Center on Saturday, and Cincinnati goes down to Houston as well on Saturday. A couple of big ones, and really for both teams, matchups that could define the season. So I want to talk about the opposition here, Rob, and Creighton and Houston. We're going to start with Creighton and a team that Xavier lost to in Omaha about a month ago here. It was a game that Xavier, I thought, had a shot in. They were right there coming down the stretch, but Creighton, they were just a really well-oiled machine in that game. Rob, take us through what this Creighton team is to you right now and how well they're playing.
Creighton is really good. They have kind of come back to earth here just a little bit. I mean, the loss to UConn at home, they lost at St. John's. There's no shame in losing at St. John's. Everyone's going to lose at St. John's right now. But I think that they're built on their defense, right? And what the way that it kind of operates is they play everything in a really deep drop. And they dare you to beat them with either mid-range jumpers or by contesting Ryan Kalkbrenner at the rim. They're very good at running teams off of the three-point line. They basically say, you're not going to beat us with threes. You're not going to beat us coming off of ball screens and hitting a roll man. You're going to have to play two-on-one actions. And what I mean by that is you come off that ball screen, Kalkbrenner standing about like 8 feet away from the basket, and you got to play two-on-one against him with the guard defender coming around behind you and the guy rolling to the basket. And they are so good at defending that. There's nobody in the country that is better at doing that without fouling than Creighton is. So you're going to have to beat them finishing over Ryan Kalkbrenner at the rim, finishing tough twos. That's what they want. That's what they dare you to do, and that's what they are so good at stopping. And to me, this is going to really come down to a matchup of whether or not Xavier's guards can make those plays. And it sounds really simple, but that's what it is. Is Davion McKnight going to be able to get into the lane and make jump shots? How effective is Ryan Conwell going to be if he's not taking shots from beyond the arc, right? I think that this will be a big game for Zach Freemantle. What we've seen in the past with teams that beat Creighton is you can kind of hit the big guys on that little short roll. And if you can hit those floaters, if Zach Freemantle can find a way to be able to make a couple of short jump shots over Ryan Kalkbrenner, that's a big difference maker as well. So I really do think that Xavier has a chance to win this game. They have really great guards. And if those really great guards decide to play really well, they're going to be able to have a chance to win. And, they've won, like 9 of their last 12?
Yeah.
Right, Paul? Yeah, and the other part of it is like they got to get this one, right? I think they'll win at Butler. I think they'll beat Providence at home. Both those teams aren't really playing for anything at this point. But if you want to get in the dance, this is the kind of win that will move the needle, that could change the resume a little bit. It's at home. I don't know if it's going to be like a borderline quad one, but it's the kind of win that you have to be able to get if you are Xavier. And I don't think that they are in a position where they can play with fire. Right? Like you have teams in the SEC, the 14th best team in the SEC is picking up quad one wins at home, right? That's what you have to challenge against. That's what you have to be better than. You have to have a better resume than like a Georgia, and Georgia just beat Florida at home. Yeah. So you have to get this win if you're Xavier. I don't think there's a way to get into the dance without it, barring getting to like the Big East tournament title game.
The way that Creighton has played lately, Rob, I mean, they'd lost those 2 in a row. They're coming off that win against Georgetown, but this was a team for most of the season in the Big East that was contending for a Big East title. And all of that after they lost Pop Isaacs. What do you think of the job that Greg McDermott has done this year with this team and Stephen Ashworth and Jemiah Neal and all of these guys? This, to me, feels like a really fun Creighton team and why I'm really looking forward to Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, it's been an unbelievable job, but would you expect any less from Greg McDermott? I certainly wouldn't. Like this is what he does. He knows how to build this team. He knows how to be able to create sets and create actions that will allow the guys that he has on his roster to be able to flourish, right? And I don't think that no one's going to look at this Creighton roster and be completely blown away by it, right? It's not like you look at Duke and you say, okay, I understand why they're good, right? I don't think you look at Creighton and you say, yeah, you know what? I understand why they're competing for Big East championships. I think it has to do with the fact that Mac understands that he has guys that are very, very good at specific things. For Ashworth, it's coming off of screens and being able to shoot the ball. For Calc, it's rolling to the rim and being able to seal people. Jemiah Neal, if you let him get to his right hand and get downhill, like he is going to dunk on your face and let you know about it. And I think McDermott is very, very good at finding ways to be able to scheme the guys that he has into an advantage situation for them.
All right, let's talk about Cincinnati and Houston. The Cougars clinched at least a share of the Big 12 regular season title. Playing Cincinnati on Saturday afternoon down in Houston, this is a game that they're going to be favored in by double digits. But for Cincinnati, after a win over Baylor as we record this last night, this is a game where essentially you're playing for your season. Kind of in both of these situations, Xavier and Cincinnati are kind of playing for your seasons here, where if you're able to go on the road and beat a team that right now is a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament, that can balloon you onto the right side of the bubble. Rob, do you think Cincinnati has a shot in this game?
The only reason that they have a shot is because this game is getting played in between the last two games that Houston played. Iowa State at home, at Texas Tech, both wins. The last two games on Houston's schedule, Kansas at home, at Baylor. The only reason they have a chance is because Houston might sit there and say, yeah, whatever. We got Cincinnati this weekend. That's the only reason they got a shot in this game. I think the Cougars are an absolute juggernaut. I think that they are closer to the conversation of Duke and Auburn than they are to the rest of the field, right? With Milos Uzan turning into like a superstar guard, which he's been for the last 6 weeks, LJ Cryer's shot making, the way that they guard, the way that they force turnovers, the way they get to the offensive glass. Like there's 3 things that they do at an elite level: offensive rebound, force turnovers, make threes, right? So what they do is they maximize the number of possessions that they're going to get, and they are better than anybody at the high major rank. They shoot better than 40% from 3. That's 3rd nationally right now, Paul. And they get extra possessions, and they know how to make the most of those possessions because they can shoot 3. It's just they are so good. And ever since, they lost 3 of their first 7 games. They have 1 loss since November, Paul. 1 loss since November, and that loss was in overtime. Okay.
Yeah, it really it's crazy because they lost those 2 games. I think that was at the Players era, right?
Yeah,
or was that
Alabama?
Yeah,
and San Diego
State.
By the way, both of those games in overtime.
Yeah, and the difference is here though, and Rob, you know this, like you just talked about, this Houston team forever. Kelvin Sampson, what do you think of a team that they're going to turn your water off? You're not going to score, but this year you look at the offensive metrics for Houston all the way down the sheet. It is incredible what they can do on the offensive end this year, finally, where, they could score, but they preferred to beat you, 55-50. Now, they don't have to win that way this year. They can, but they don't have to.
The big difference to me, look, LJ Cryer is one of the best tough shot makers that you're going to find in college basketball, but he's kind of the definition of a tough shot maker is a guy that is going to be a little bit streaky, right? When you're taking these step back 23 footers, he can make them. And when he gets hot, he'll hit 3 or 4 in a row like he did against Iowa State on Saturday. But, you're going to have nights like Texas Tech where he really struggled on, Monday night on the road. There's going to be nights like that. And what's kind of balanced them out is it took Milos Uzan a little while to realize he needed to be selfish. And what I mean by that is when you are the lone transfer coming into a program that has as well of a defined culture as you're going to find in college basketball, it takes a little while for you to be able to feel like you have some kind of say and some kind of voice and some kind of leadership in that locker room. Like Juwan Roberts is a huge personality in that locker room. Kelvin Sampson is a massive personality. Everyone's kind of has roles defined. Leadership roles are defined. Like Houston, the culture is as well established as anybody in the sport. And it took Uzan a little while to realize, like, if this team is going to win, there's going to be times where I just can't be like passive and distributing and setting people up. Like I kind of got to go be a guy. They brought me in to be a guy. Like I got to be a dude. I got to go out there. I got to make plays. And over the last 6 weeks, he's averaging like 15 points a game. He's figured out that when he gets to his right hand, he can make those little floaters. He's made in a number of these games on the stretch, like at Arizona, he made a huge jump shot in the lane. Against Texas Tech, against Iowa State, he had a huge 3 that pushed the lead to 6 points late in that game. Like he's really embraced this role of being the go-to guy and the leader and somebody that can make easy shots for everybody else. And it all stems from the fact that he realized he needed to be more selfish when it comes to getting his own shot and looking for his own. You don't have to just set everybody up. Sometimes the best thing for this team and the least selfish thing that you can do is go create your own shot if you're Milo Suzan.
All right, last question for you here, Robin. I'll get you out of here. Cincinnati, they've won 5 of their last 7 games. They're coming off the win against Baylor. I know Baylor's had a really tough season this year. I mean, they've now all of a sudden fallen back to the bubble. Do you think Cincinnati has turned a corner? Do you think that this team that started off the season hot, but then lost 8 of 10 to start Big 12 play, they're in the conversation? You have any just general thoughts on where Cincinnati is right now?
I just think the schedule kind of eased up a little bit on them, right? Like, look at who they've beaten. At UCF, they got BYU and Utah at home. You lose at Iowa State and West Virginia. Then you get TCU and Baylor at home, right? Like, it's a little bit of they kind of beat who they're supposed to beat at home, and they lose to who they're supposed to lose to away from Cincinnati, right? And the concern with me when it comes to being a potential tournament team is, I mean, the metrics are fine, like the quad stuff, like their profile is not that far away. There's just nothing at the top. Like the best one you have is BYU, right? The biggest thing that you can write home about is beating Dayton on a neutral, like beating Baylor at home. Like there's nothing at the top of the resume that you could pin there and the committee can look at it and say, oh, okay, that's how we know they're actually good and not just a team that can beat up on teams that are maybe a little bit better than them. So that's why I think this is a do or die game, even more so than Xavier beating Creighton. Like, I don't. Cincinnati's got a lot more ground to make up at this point than Xavier does, and finding a way to win at Houston is one of, like, that would be the third best win that you could possibly get in the world of college basketball. So it's going to be tough, but if you need to make up ground, this is the best opportunity that you have to make up the most ground with just one win.
Rob Dauster, I always appreciate it. Field of 68, everything else you guys are doing there is fantastic, so I appreciate it. And thanks for taking a few minutes today.
Always a pleasure, Paul.
See you soon.